Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 3883. Today's date is February 12, 2026. It's been almost like afternoon at 14:49 p.m. It's 02:49 p.m. Okay, it's O 249. O 200, yeah, O 249 probably. I don't know. It's a like basically it's this thing na. If I wanted to say in my language, like Marathi language, पावणे तीन झाले आहेत. Okay, like every kind of like a things has a kind of like a different way to say some sort of stuff. Whatever. Let's just jump into the question. Okay, yeah, let's go. By the way, I didn't really open the document. By the way, if you are kind of like a somebody just curious about where are those question actually came from, so by the way, I ask like basically is this thing what is that this thing now? Ki I get this question from ChatGPT. Okay, so what is actually prompt that I get from? Okay, so what is actually prompt that I get? Prompt is not like basically is this na? I don't really use a kind of like a prompt that ki, okay, this is the prompt for this is the prompt. No, I create my own prompt. Okay, how do I supposed to create? First of all, is that ki go to the chat GPT, go to the custom GPT. There is an Explorer tab. Open that Explorer tab. There are so many kind of like custom GPT already people made it. Okay, yeah. Search prompt enhancer custom GPT. Okay, search about. You will find out. It's a kind of like it's a very much trending. Add this kind of like a custom GPT on your pin on your that kind of like a project. Okay. Then what I do, open that kind of like a prompt enhancer, tap the mic. Okay, there is a kind of like a type the prompt and there is a mic. Tap the mic and I just record. Like basically I just kind of like a say, like I just say that thing ki I am doing this YouTube for almost like a 4 year and I haven't really get any kind of like a views or things or that. I don't really earning any kind of like a money or things like that. So I wanted to know that is there kind of like a wrong thing inside of me or things like that. I wanted to know the realization regarding about that YouTube, that am I content creator or not, or things and that. Okay, so give me at least 100 question so that I would ask this question to myself to analyze myself regarding about as a content creator or not. I said this thing, hit the enter, it convert into the text, and I hit the enter that text into the prompt. That custom GPT prompt enhancer convert into the prompt. In that prompt say you are this person and you are kind of like asking this and that. Just copy that prompt. Okay, yeah, and put it into the Google Gemini. Okay, yeah, Google Gemini and select the deep research. Okay, and kind of like a search it. Now what is actually deep research do? Deep research is a kind of like a somebody create that prompt, like whatever the prompt it actually happened, it kind of like a simply that key, like I am not the only one who has this kind of like a simply want kind of like a question and things like that. Obviously there are hundreds of people are actually exist who kind of like a face similar kind of like a problems and things and that, and they already kind of like a created couple of questions or things or that and that. So basically what does deep research do is that when I hit the enter, Google kind of like a search about all the article are actually exist available on the internet, everything regarding about the YouTube realization question and things and that. It search about everything and kind of like a create the document. It kind of like a create me 100 question. Okay, yeah, and those 100 question I'm kind of like a saying this thing to myself. So basically these are question are legitly from something from somewhere article. Okay, yeah, and when I ask this question to myself, I would get realization regarding about me and things like that. So this is all I do. Like this is kind of like somebody that I generate the question. Okay, yeah. Like basically, I'm thinking about that. Ki I wanted to ask a kind of like simply a question regarding about something that ki why things happen. Like basically, it's this thing na ki there are a couple of things that I'm really curious about, and I wanted to ask such a question. What is exactly that? Okay, like why water get things wet? Okay, why the sky looks blue? By the way, I know that sky looks blue is because of that existence of kind of like a multiple mixture of nitrogen and things and that, and as also kind of like a light rays is actually interpret into the atmosphere, and it kind of like creates an immersive blue color. Okay, yeah, so that's why it kind of like a blue color, but it not a kind of like a blue color. The shades of blue color is kind of like exist at some certain distance and some certain kind of like a angle from the light. That's why it kind of like look blue. But when the sunset actually happened, it kind of like a look yellow and things, and that in the afternoon it kind of like a look blue. Sometimes it kind of like get white and things like that, whatever. But these are kind of like some existing very simple question that I have to ask to, so that I would kind of like be more curious and things like that. Obviously these are questions actually generated by the chat GPT or Google Gemini deep researcher, and I'm better to know. Like basically important thing is that na, ki I ask this question to get more information about everything. Okay, yeah. So these are kind of like the question is about. All right. So do you aware of that how I get this question? All right. So let's proceed. Okay. So question is, okay, is my setup always ready to record without friction or excuse? Okay, that's a really good question. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? This is YouTube realization question. Why am I asking this question to myself? When I ask this question to myself, I get more realization regarding about me as a content creator. I get more realization regarding about as a social media platform, YouTube, Instagram. I get more realization regarding about my execution process, my creativity and things like that. Okay, and I know more about myself that am I considered myself as a content creator or not, or am I worthy enough to consider myself as a content creator or YouTuber or that particular person or not. So for this realization, I'm kind of like asking this question to myself. All right. Now regarding about the question says that, is my setup always ready to record without friction or excuse? Okay, what exactly is this thing? So basically is this thing, have you ever happened to you that you just kind of like sit in front of the desk, you kind of like turn on your PC and you just open your mobile phone and kind of like scrolling through Instagram reel and things like that. Like basically till the kind of like a computer on, you are kind of like waiting for this, like you are kind of like wait for a couple of minutes, na? Okay, yeah. If you are using the Apple Mac, then might be it kind of like open very fast. But I'm using Windows laptop. Okay, yeah. Windows laptop are also really fast too. But my laptop is a kind of like a little bit potato laptop. Okay, it kind of like takes a little bit time to open the laptop or kind of like start the things and that. So in this particular period of time, like a 2-3 minute of time, I open my phone and kind of like check things like Instagram or things or that. And that is wrong. Like basically sometime I realize that the system is actually started, but I still scrolling through Instagram, and it kind of like consume me at least like a 10-15 minute. It does actually happen. Okay, let me give you context. I am not using Instagram on app. I am using Instagram from Chrome browser. Okay, yeah. So Chrome browser is a kind of like simply giving me a jittery experience of Instagram, which kind of like let me to not to use Instagram that much. Okay, yeah. But after, but instead of waiting, I experience that jittery experience. I feel okay. I'm kind of like okay with that jittery experience, because what do I supposed to do? I just have to wait. So because of I'm waiting, so why should I supposed to not to use Instagram? So I'm using Instagram. Okay, yeah. And sometime I just kind of like somebody scrolling and things like that, and realize like this is not good. Okay, so then I quit myself and things and that. Okay, yeah. And obviously it happened to the most of people. Okay, yeah. I'm not really sure it actually happened with me. Maybe it actually happened with you as also, because I'm not the only one who kind of like experiencing this kind of like a problem, right? So how do I supposed to make my process smoother? Okay, yeah. Like basically soon as I start in front of my desk, I just kind of like keep doing my stuff. Okay, I'm gonna kind of like give you a couple of things. Okay, yeah, let me give you context. Okay, yeah, let me tell you things. I'm not really sure am I right or wrong, but what is actually I realized throughout this time, okay, yeah, is that sometimes these things are somewhat something essential. Okay, yeah, that you are kind of like spending little bit time to kind of like using Instagram and things like that. before you start work and things like that. Most of people say this thing, what are you doing? We shouldn't supposed to spend that much amount of time to kind of like things like that, right? But I'm saying this thing that key, let's spend a little bit time on that. Why? Because of that na ki, I'm not really sure, but it actually happened with me. When I decided that ki I shouldn't supposed to use my mobile phone, nothing really at all. I'm gonna use my mobile phone for just for adding values and things and that and that and that. Okay, yeah. So when I decided that, and then I'm not using iPhone and things like that, it just kind of like a feel like that resistance for me. Like I cannot able to do my work, or I cannot able to kind of like a simply do my work for longer period of time. Okay, yeah. Why is that? Because most of the time work is a boring. Yeah, like basically just doing the same thing again and again and again and again. It kind of like a felt boring. Okay. So what I did is that key, while doing my work, I started listening music. So is it multitasking? Yeah, it's a multitasking. You are listening music and you are doing work. So am I kind of like a somebody like a reducing my output? Well, it does not. Like why? Like I'm not really sure, but I am listening music and I'm doing my work. So it's a multitasking, but I'm increasing my output. Like basically is this thing. Before that, I was kind of like a complete the one file. After I listening the music, I'm kind of like complete 4 or 5 files. It's like, wow, that's really good. Okay, yeah. Same thing happened when you are kind of like a running, just running. It felt difficult, but when you listen the music and while running, it felt more comfortable. Like basically, your music is a complement your work. Okay, yeah. Basically, this thing music is complement your work, and work became better. It happened with me. I'm not really sure about you, but it happened with me. And because of I'm utilizing music, I'm improving, or kind of like a simply that key, improving my work, or like I can stretch more uh, period of time to myself to do my work and things like that. Okay, let me give you another thing. It's not that key, when work really required my focus, I will stop the music and will focus on my work. But most of the time, my work is just repeating task in itself. Like when I design stuff, I kind of like open the design in Photoshop, kind of like remove the background, this layer, that layer, that layer, that layer. Like I did this thing for thousands of time. So because of that, it's kind of like a feel like really normal. Even if I'm doing creative work, still it's kind of like a very much repetitive work because I'm doing the same thing. Like every design is a kind of like a bit different, but still process is kind of like a same. Open the Photoshop, remove the background, select this layer, that layer, that layer, that layer. If I don't really found this PNG, go to the search and search about this PNG and things like that and that. Like I don't know how I'm supposed to explain this thing. Is this thing na ki basically is this thing for listening music, I don't really require any kind of like a put effort or focus to listen music. It just headphone inside of me. I'm just this is inform. I'm just I don't know. I'm just vibing with this thing. It's not really that. I'm not putting any kind of like a effort to listen music. No, it's not. It just happened. And because of listening listening music, it complement my work. So basically, I would stretch myself and kind of like do my design, do my work for a longer period of time and things like that. It did happen with me. Okay, yeah. I'm not really sure about you, but it did happen with me. Okay, yeah. So this is I kind of like decided that I should supposed to be kind of like a utilize the kind of like a something the mobile phone for complement my work. So basically is this thing that key I am very much used to it. Like before, like when I was kind of like doing a job, I was kind of like a listening music. Then I started listening kind of like a book summary. Okay, because it's just an audio interface, na. You just have to kind of like listen. You don't have to look at. Then I kind of like started listening kind of like something the movies summaries. Okay, like there are kind of like some movies summaries are actually explained in Hindi, kind of like movies. I listen that thing. It's not really that key. I'm kind of like looking at the phone. I'm kind of like listening the video probably. Okay, yeah. And I'm doing this thing for almost like a probably 4, 5. No, it's been 8, 9 year. Okay, yeah, 8, 9 year. So almost like a decade probably. Okay, I'm kind of like doing this thing. Okay, yeah. So I am at this moment. I am so much aware of that ki even if I'm kind of like somebody, there is like I always kind of like put my mobile phone in front of my monitor, like in front is like bottom of the monitor. In the monitor, I'm kind of like doing my work, doing my editing, doing my things and that and that. And in the bottom, I kind of like put my phone like a basically landscape, and kind of like there is a kind of like a movies actually playing or YouTube videos actually playing and things like that. And it doesn't really bother me at all. Okay, I am not gonna suggest you to do this thing. Why? Because of that ki I put almost like a decade of experience and things like that. So that's why I'm literally comfortable to do this thing, like watching movies simultaneously. I will do my work and it does not hamper my creativity. Okay, yeah. It does not hamper my creativity. My creativity, when my creativity really required my focus, I would do that thing. Like basically, when I kind of like creating, editing sound. So in the process of sound, I would pause my movie and kind of like listening the sound effect. What kind of like a sound effect should I supposed to be add, and this and that and that and that. For this particular process, I pause myself. Okay, yeah. So basically the question is that is my setup always ready to record without friction and excuse? Well, probably is this thing na ki it's not really that ki kind of like a like basically the question is actually about that ki kind of like how do you start, and like basically is this thing that ki before you start you are actually facing any kind of like resistance and things like that. The question is that ki I don't really consider a resistance is a resistance. I create that resistance as a compliment in my work. So yeah, probably am I wrong? Am I kind of like somebody really bad, or am I like because of this thing I'm not kind of like earning any kind of like money on YouTube because of this thing? I'm not, my design is kind of like really fuck. Well, my design is not really fuck. Like basically there are so many people are kind of like say your design is really good, very creative and things and that and that. So my design is not really fuck. So probably why are you not earning any money is because of your kind of like somebody is doing this multitasking things. That's why you are now not refining your work that much. I am refining my work every single day. I'm making my design every single day to as good as possible as it can. And I don't know. It's like that na ki sometimes I just don't have any answer. If you ask me that ki I will not gonna give my mobile phone and you just have to do your work without your mobile phone, can I able to do this thing? I might gonna do this thing, but if I have a music, I would gonna do this thing in a 2 hour. If I'm not having any mobile phone or things like that, probably it will gonna take 3 hour or maybe yeah. Because of that ki boring or things, I'm not really sure. I am really not so sure about this thing. Okay, yeah. Is it like everyone says this thing, multitasking is a really wrong and you are doing this thing. Why are you doing this thing? It's a wrong thing. I'm not really sure is it wrong or right. It does add my value. Because of this thing, I am uploading my content every single day. I'm improving my content every single day. Now, why I'm not getting likes or views and things and that's another question. Because I cannot control this thing. What is actually things that I could control is that making my design as better from yesterday and be consistent. This is the things that I could be able to be control, and that's what I'm doing at that. Now, how many views and likes and subscribers will I get? I know I will gonna get in the future. It's not really that I will not gonna get. Okay, yeah. And the music and videos and the YouTube that I watch is complement my work. It's not kind of like a somebody that kind of like a somebody that like basically stopping my things or the kind of like a not letting me things and that. probably. Unless if I'm kind of like somebody just doing kind of like a basically this thing na keyboard is at least this thing. I think that na ki doing my work means what? Like you are doing action towards anything. Okay, like basically if I were to create the design, then I need my one hand on keyboard, one hand on mouse, looking at the monitor screen and kind of like doing the Photoshop and things and that and that. So this is my work. It really required my action, right? But if I'm listening music or if I'm kind of like something listening any kind of like somebody podcast or things and that, am I putting any kind of like a work? I'm not putting any kind of like work. I'm just listening. Might be kind of like for a fraction of the second I'm kind of like looking at the scene, and then after that I might not, because I'm kind of like somebody most of the time I'm just listening, like a music, podcast, movie review, book review, or kind of like a geopolitics movies or geopolitics kind of like assembly news or things like that. Most of the time I'm kind of like a listening this thing. Sometime I watch those things too. Just kind of like assembly, just put the eyeball in the down, look at this thing. Okay, it's not really that much important. Put it into back to the work and do my Photoshop and things like that. Like multitasking means like that, na ki when there is a two work actually happen. Like basically it's this thing, you are doing Photoshop and simultaneously you are doing kind of like a something like that ki music, or maybe kind of like a something that ki like okay in the cooking, yeah, cooking might be kind of like a really good. Okay, yeah. My mother is a really good like a multitasker. I'm not really sure how do I supposed to explain this thing. Okay, my mother makes puran puri in one tawa and she can make bhaji on another burner, like another gas. She could do this thing. She could make the roti and bhaji. She could make the varan and kind of like a chawal. I can't do this thing. My mother could kind of like somebody chopping the kind of like a vegetable while kind of like doing this another kind of like a cooking stuff. She could do that thing. I'm not just a kind of like my mother does it. Every mother does it. Every Indian mother does it. Because of that key, basically is this thing. My mother kind of like went through so many hours of time. It's kind of like she's experienced enough to understand what exactly happened. She knows that where should we supposed to kind of like a turn off the kind of like a gas, or how many cooker will kind of like simply blow the whistles and things like that. She knows that how to flip the roti and things like that because she did it millions of times. So basically this thing, it's became her muscle memory. So she does this multitasking, and because of this multitask she could do this thing. She makes J1 very quickly, very easily, in very less amount of time. But if I started doing this thing, I can't. Like when I try to make roti, I'm fully focused on making roti. And even after I put the effort, I can't make the round roti. I can't make the kind of like some exact circle roti. Why? Because I am very inexperienced. I haven't really spent that much amount of time regarding about how do I supposed to make roti and things and that. And if kind of like if someone asks me that can make a sabzi simultaneously, I can't do this thing. Why would I supposed to do this thing? It's cannot, because I am very inexperienced regarding about that. So I think this is what it is. Like multitasking is not a hurdle, is not a wrong. It's a kind of like a thing that na ki when you are good enough in something, it's happened very easily. You just done. It just, I don't know. Is it wrong? I'm not really sure. Also, I'm completely agree with the multitasking is a kind of like a legitly wrong. At some time, I'm not really sure. I don't really have any kind of like a proper answer regarding about that thing, because I don't know. I just don't know regarding about that. Okay. Now regarding about the question says that is my setup is always ready to record without any friction and excuse. No, it does have kind of like a little bit friction. My system does not start kind of like a rapidly. What should I supposed to do? Like install like a board, like you should supposed to buy a MacBook. Well, yeah, but I don't really have that much amount of money, and I only have my potato laptop, and I'm kind of like using that thing. So that's why, and I'm kind of like spending almost like a 2-3 minute on kind of like a things. Probably, yeah. There is always be a resistance, but facing that resistance and things, I don't know. I don't really consider as a resistance. Some people are, some people are not. okay, there are a couple of things I truly consider that is a wrong thing, scrolling through Instagram reel, because this is the things that I can do. Vertical video, I didn't really watch that much, like legitly nothing. I most of the time I like whatever the content that I'm kind of like a seen on my mobile phone are horizontal content, not vertical content. So horizontal content is a long form content, and it really required very less amount of kind of like a somebody intervene to my screen and things like that. So yeah, when I'm kind of like intervene my screen too much, then probably it might consider as a kind of like a somebody multitask and things like that. Probably. I'm not really sure about that. Whatever, this is it. This is just my opinion regarding about that. Thank you.